It's time for another edition of Lewis at Large, 60 minutes of smart talk radio featuring guests from all walks of life in conversation with your host, Warner Lewis. So sit back and lend us your ears for the next hour. Now here with today's first guest is the host of Lewis at Large, Warner Lewis.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck, and of course, as always, that means some smart talk radios in your future. In this segment, excited to talk to this guy, Russel Hannon. Who's Russel Hannon? Well, he is America's ultra-economical travel expert. He has breakthetravelbarrier.com. We'll talk about all kinds of fun things to do this year in travel. Russel, how are you, my friend?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me today.
Well, we're very pleased to have you here. Let's do this. As a travel expert, what everybody likes to travel, or most people like to travel, but why professionally for you being a travel expert?
Well, going back 10 years ago, I felt I couldn't afford to travel much. I thought I'd settle for just taking one big trip a year. I would spend months saving up for that one trip and got back and spent a few more months paying off the balance. And I made the mistake of thinking that travel was inherently expensive. Now, ironically, my day job was to find ways to get better results in less time using less money. So I worked in lean management, and I said, there's got to be a way I can use this toward travel, to travel more and spend less. So lean principles are what I use and what I can show you to really travel at a fraction of the going rate.
What, again, with the proliferation of the internet and all the travel sites and all the ability to book your own travel, whether it's by land, sea, air, and where you stay and where you go, what is the role, Russel, anymore of the travel agent?
Well, ultimately, when I look at a travel agent, travel agents, you can get better flexibility in terms of terms. They save you time, and that's what you're getting for money, and also the expertise in terms of their knowledge of areas. So usually, if you're looking for someone who specializes in a certain area, group travel operators, for example, there's a few that I recommend. They really understand the area as well. They remove the risk and the time involved with you having to put everything together, and you often do get better flexibility with bookings through travel agents than if you go book something online yourself.
What about, again, with so many websites that are out there, do you really believe anymore the average American pretty much can book their own trip completely on their own from here on out?
Well, you know what? There was a survey, actually, that was done by a travel research agency called Skift. And they found a lot of people find they can actually save money by doing their own work, booking travel. So that's the trade-off, is spending a bit more time doing their diligence, booking it themselves. And by doing their own research, people are feeling that they can get exactly what they're looking for and that they can save money. The question is, are people looking to invest the time to do that? And that's really my mission, is to help people quickly and easily find the best price for what they're looking for.
Well, let's do this. There's a lot of talk about, well, there are certain days of the week or times of the month that it's best to book airline tickets. Let's just start right there. Is that in fact the case? And if so, tell us about certain times of the week, month, or year even, in terms of booking air travel.
Well, you know what? The truth is that's always a moving target. In general, though, you should be looking for domestic trips a couple months out before booking. International trips, you can go as far as 5 or 6 months out on average. But again, this is a moving target. Now, there are a few airlines that actually have price drop protection. So what they do is they'll actually refund you if the price drops after you book. So if you book with these airlines, it doesn't really matter when you book, because then you can get refunded afterward. Now, the way these work, there's a few of them, like American Airlines, Delta, United, and U.S. Airways, which has recently gone through a merger. If there's price drops of $200 or more, so these are for expensive tickets, especially international trips. If the price drops $200 or more after you book, then you can actually get a refund for that amount. Now, they won't always tell you if your price drops. So what you do is when you book a flight with one of these airlines, you can go to airfarewatchdog.com, set up your flights, and ask for an email if the price drops by more than a certain amount, and then you just get an email alert if it occurs.
What about, let's go back to, here's an old tried and true. What about Amtrak and rail travel? How popular is that? Who uses it? And are there special opportunities there?
Well, you know what? I find, particularly in the Northeast U.S., The Amtrak system is just so well integrated with all the cities. Phenomenal for getting around. I was last on Amtrak between Philadelphia and New York about a year ago, and I recall they've got some loyalty. They do have a loyalty program. I believe they do have some programs for people of certain ages. I don't remember the details, if it's seniors, students, but certainly there are certain cases where you can save a certain percentage through Amtrak. So I recommend, they have these pamphlets that, and even their website I'm sure has all the information, is to take a look to see what you qualify for to save some money while on rail.
If you just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio. And, of course, we're talking to Russel Hannon, one of America's top travel experts. Got a website called BreakTheTravelBarrier.com. He is the ultra-economical travel expert. What about those that still enjoy seeing the country just by good old car, RV, or tell us about that? What kinds of planning, what kind of savings, and how should we view that if we want to take off on our own vehicle?
Well, there's a few things that you can do that can save you upwards of 40% in just about any city in the United States. For example, there's one website that has travel deals neatly packaged by city, and we're talking about restaurants, hotels, golf courses, activities, excursions. TravelZoo.com. I'd say if you're going on a road trip this weekend, you could even be on the road now. Just go to TravelZoo.com, type the city that you're in or that you're visiting, and you'll find all kinds of great coupons there. So I'd recommend always just taking a look at that as a rule of thumb.
What about yourself? How far? I mean, you must be on the road quite a bit, whether you're speaking professionally or just doing recreational travel. What domestically, what are maybe some hidden gems that you found that maybe are not on the radar screen as far as the typical tourist destination?
Well, you know what? A lot of the hidden gems are the lesser talked about places to visit, or also, ironically, some of the least expensive to visit. This year, actually, U.S. National Parks are celebrating 100th anniversary, and there's going to be all sorts of deals. There's about 6 or 7 days of the year where U.S. National Parks are going to be waiving entrance fees for all parks across the United States, and I think one of them is coming up. Their website, actually, I think January 21st is the first day of the year, but I'd recommend just taking a look at National Park Service's website where they've got all the days, and we're talking about Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, and everything from Acadia to Olympic National Park. So I'd recommend taking a look at that, and you can see a lot of national parks get in there for free a number of days this year.
What about, again, if you've got kids or the kid in you, what about travel to America's theme parks, be it Disney World, Disneyland, the Six Flags locations? Tell us about that. Are there deals there, and when's a good time to take advantage of those?
Well, one thing to do is to try to avoid the really big holidays. And when you look at spring break, when you've got a lot of people from up north that are going out to visit, the big long weekends and the holidays, try to avoid the masses. Another thing, a lot of those cities, like if you go to Orlando, those cities are really built on timeshare. So people with timeshare ownership certainly have the opportunity. Also, something that I've been doing for the last 10 years, in the winter, I go to travel shows, and there's always all kinds of timeshare companies there, and they're always offering prizes. So I put my business card in, and although I've never won, I always get a telephone call where they invite me to go stay at their resort for a couple days in return for attending a timeshare sales presentation. So by looking at that, these sorts of places have fully furnished accommodations with kitchens and bedrooms, and especially when you're traveling with kids, that's ideally what you want to look for. So it is an inexpensive alternative for you to get fully furnished accommodations, only that you're going to have to go into a sales presentation, and sometimes there can be some high-pressure sales tactics, so you need to be aware of that going in. And certainly you can arm yourself with information if you've never done this, just doing some research online before going.
Again, we're with Russel Hannon with BreakTheTravelBarrier.com, one of America's ultra-economical travel experts. Russell, let's talk about the proliferation of unique discount services that were not here 5 years ago, things like Airbnb and even Uber for ground transportation. How has that changed the landscape for everybody?
Well, Uber is really a disruptive technology, and if taxis don't evolve, I actually, what's going to happen is Uber's going to really do to taxis what happened to BlackBerry going back a few years ago with the Apple iPhone. So now the thing is, Uber really shot themselves in the foot on New Year's Eve. Actually, they had this multiplier rate where a lot of people on New Year's Eve had to pay about 10 times the going rate of Uber that one night. So doing something like that, it really they pretty much shot themselves in the foot with that. So we'll have to see how this plays out over time. But the key thing with the internet is we've got this entire trend where basically you can take advantage of the sharing economy. And there's all kinds of other websites where you can go to the internet and get super services like Uber. There's one for car rentals in the United States. It is called driveaway.com. Now, this website, they actually have cars. These are people that are looking to relocate cars, and they're looking to match them with drivers. So that's a place where you can actually find someone to drive your car if you're relocating to another part of the country, or to drive a car for someone else. And a few other websites. You've got homeexchange.com, which is a website featured in the movie The Holiday with Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet. And there's 65,000 listings all over the world. And basically, this is where you can exchange your place, or even if it's a second property, with someone else for your holiday.
What about, again, we go back to like Airbnb and some of these other places where how much is that really carving into the resort or hotel business, especially in our larger cities?
Well, when I go to travel shows, I hear it's making a significant impact. Hotels and businesses are frustrated, very frustrated with all this, where they feel that they're exposed to a lot of legislation that other companies are getting around. And I was down in Santa Monica recently and saw that the county of Santa Monica had actually put a ban on private listings on the website you had mentioned. And their argument is you're not paying taxes for the revenue that you're gaining. So, again, the fact that this disruptive technology is causing a lot of pain to the mainstream businesses, in a lot of cases are getting around taxes. So things need to evolve for over the course of the next few years to really see where the dust settles with all this. But in the meantime, there are opportunities to save money while using them, knowing that there is less oversight around some of these services, and there are some risks associated with that.
What about, and again, there's all different times of the year to take these. Let's talk about cruising, whether you're going to the Caribbean, you're going to Alaska, or wherever you're going. Talk to us about, at least domestically, what about the great deals you can find on cruises? How do we go about doing that, and how do we plan and buy at the right time?
Well, you know what? I just saw some great deals this week. Myself, what I do to save time finding great deals is there's a few newsletters I sign up to that every week basically come into my inbox with great deals. Now, for cruises, amongst other things, one of the bigger travel websites, ShermansTravel.com, has a weekly top 25 newsletter that comes out every Wednesday, and they go through thousands of online deals. There was one that just came out this Wednesday with cruise deals. It was $499 US in the Caribbean. I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but ShermansTravel.com has the details. And this way, you don't have to do the work to go search for these things. You're basically getting an email with all sorts of options and deals for your cruises and other things, and you can just cherry pick the ones that interest you.
What about also the chambers of commerces of our cities? What kinds of information can people get from those websites and from those organizations? Let's just say let's just pick a city out. Someone wants to take a trip to Tucson, Arizona, and they want to explore Arizona. Let's just use that kind of as a case study. How would Russel Hannon go about planning a trip to, say, Phoenix and the Tucson area?
Well, something I do 2 weeks before going to Phoenix, I would actually just do a quick Google search of Phoenix tourist offices and also Phoenix events, for example. Or sorry, if you had said Tucson, I would just do the Google search of the place I'm looking to visit, and I'd say local event newsletters, and then I would sign up to those. Every city, town, community has local event newsletters, and you can find all sorts of deals and events that are going on that really target locals that tourists aren't aware of. You'd also be surprised to see how many places have tourist information centers as well. So they're always in the areas where there's most stuff that is of interest to tourists. So always just do a quick Google search of the Tourist Information Center, and you'll find all kinds of great stuff there. And then you meet all kinds of other people who are traveling. And I find by talking to people there, they're telling me where they've gone to during their visit, and those people give me great ideas as well when I'm visiting a place.
Do you have any tips for those? Let's go back to air travel again. Southwest offers, of course, 2 free bags, but the airlines that do not, and they charge for that, are there ways around that, or what are some ways you found that people can save money on baggage fees?
Well, something I have that not many people in North America know of is I actually have a luggage jacket that I bring with me as a second carry-on. Now, with airlines, traditionally you can only bring one carry-on at no additional charge. So my second carry-on is a luggage jacket that actually unfolds into a big trench coat for men, and there's a poncho-style dress for women, and it's just loaded with pockets on the inside and outside. I can put my computer and all my things in it. I learned about this in Europe. It was a company called Jack2Go, JAKTOGO.com. And it's not a fashion statement, but certainly you can put a lot more stuff in there than a traditional carry-on. And that's one way that you can double up on how much you bring with you without paying the extra fees.
And we would be remiss with not talking a little bit about international travel. Europe is always popular, as so many other places around the world. What about traveling overseas? Are there particular deals? Are there particular trips, countries, areas, events, and things to see that you found have been tremendously economical and people can get some good deals on?
Well, you know what? The U.S. dollar is trading relatively high, making 2016 a year that's shaping up to be a great year to take a trip abroad, to take advantage of that currency difference. For example, Canada, relatively inexpensive compared to the United States, where the U.S. dollar is trading at about $1.25 to $1.30 Canadian. When you look at Europe, U.S. dollar is also quite high against the euro. I also saw that Lonely Planet said Estonia was ranked as their top budget travel destination in the world for 2016. And when you think of Estonia, really you should imagine these real enchanting forests, like what you see in these movies like Little Red Riding Hood and such, and you see the beautiful, enchanting forests. So also the U.S. dollar compared to the Estonian kroon is trading quite highly, so you get a lot of value for your dollar in places like that.
Let's also, we got to touch on reward programs overall. Let's talk about it, in your opinion. Let's start with the airlines. Let's talk about those and the ones you feel are the most beneficial for the traveler. And also, what about hotel or car rental reward programs?
Certainly. Well, my philosophy is to always sign up to loyalty programs when you're traveling with any travel operator, because it's always free to sign up. It usually takes no more than 2 minutes. And then it's just a matter of keeping track of them all, whether it's in your smartphone or an agenda. The ones that you are using more often, I'd consider you have to have a credit card to book travel online. So consider getting a credit card that's affiliated with the travel operator that you use most. I'd recommend one airline and one hotel. And I always recommend having 2 travel rewards credit cards, because when you travel, you should have one on your person and one in your luggage in case you lose one or the other, so that you don't get stuck. And a lot of credit cards, as many people are aware now, have tremendous sign-up bonuses. If you've got kids, I'd recommend looking for a credit card that has an annual companion pass, so that you can bring somebody else with you once a year for an additional fee of $99 to $120. In the West Coast, the Alaska Airlines credit card is one of those. There aren't too many of them, but there are a few that you can find. And that way you can really stretch your travel dollar by leveraging the loyalty programs with the travel rewards credit cards. If you're a business traveler, if your company allows it, you book all your business travel with your personal credit card, get the company to reimburse you, and then you can really start to multiply your points.
Well, let's talk about the website, breakthetravelbarrier.com, one that you're, I'm sure, are very proud of. Tell us what our listeners can find there and some of the values and some of the information.
Well, really, it leverages off, there's a book that I have, Stop Dreaming, Start Traveling, The Ultimate Guide to Traveling More and Spending Less. Now, because some websites can change over time or some of the best deals can get outdated, the book says go to breakthetravelbarrier.com for the latest and greatest lists of credit card travel rewards, websites by type of accommodation, etc. And there's also a free guide. It'll show you how to beat the best online fare every time, every flight, and that's available for free on the homepage.
What about travel also between the ages? And by that I mean, what are millennials looking for versus baby boomers versus maybe senior citizens? Of course, maybe baby boomers are starting to become senior citizens, but what are some of the more popular destinations with younger people? Let's just start there.
Well, with younger people, some travel experts that I suggest, there's a gentleman called the Points Guy, or that's his alias name that he goes by, the Points Guy, and he's got all kinds of innovative ways to save money while traveling. So younger people are willing to roll up their sleeves and to do a little bit more to save a few dollars. So when we look at the sorts of tactics that we would do and what we're willing to do, traditionally we're willing to do a little bit more. When we get into the perhaps into the baby boomers and such, the Rick Steves, for example, who really focuses on Europe, used to offer European group travel tours. A lot of the guidance and advice that Rick Steves provide is really tailored more toward the baby boomers, where they're not looking to really, they basically just want to travel how they want to travel. They're willing to pay a little bit more money just to save themselves a little bit of time or hassle. So, and then you've got everything in between, which quite often when we've got kids, young kids in particular, road trips seem to be more popular. Camping, staying close to home, but you can also take advantage of those things when you're further away. Like if you do go to Europe, for example, you can still camp. There's a website called campingcheck.com. A membership gives you access to 700 campgrounds throughout Europe during the shoulder season, which is spring and fall, for a flat rate of €16 a night per campground.
And what about, as we sort of start to wind down here a little bit, what do you see? Are there some new emerging fun places to go? Again, we talked a little bit about some of those more remote ones, but are there any particular deals coming up soon that you're aware of, or some things that we want to make sure our listeners don't miss?
Well, you know what's interesting is a few places in 2016 that are going to be more easily accessible that haven't been in the past. One of them, these are more fascinating areas. One of them, St. Helena Island, which is one of the most remote islands in the world where Napoleon Bonaparte was sent into exile. Next month, they're going to be opening their first airport ever. So it used to take 5.5 days, or still that's 5.5 days at sea to get to the island, but starting next month, you can actually fly to this island. And it's just a little 10 by 5 mile island in the middle of the South Atlantic, between South America and Brazil. Fascinating places, difficult to access. Also, if you go into Africa, Botswana has some of the most amazing African safaris in the world, and they're just starting to have international flights coming in from places in South Africa, making it much more easily accessible. So these are some of the hotter places to visit in 2016 because of the newly found accessibility.
You talked about, just made me think, my gosh, we need to talk about this. Talk to us about what you see as travel to Cuba as that market opens up.
Yes, Cuba. Well, Celebrity Cruises announced that they're starting cruises going to Cuba in May 2016. Now, I recommend visiting Cuba as soon as you can, because as time goes and trade picks up and more tourists visit, I find that what's fascinating and unique with Cuba is that time warp sort of experience, and you see all the old cars and how it really is it's like going back into the past, so to say, going to visit that place. But it won't always be like that, so I recommend taking advantage of the opportunity to visit sooner as opposed to later.
Well, the world is at your fingertips, so to speak. We've been talking to Russel Hannon, ultra-economical travel expert, breakthetravelbarrier.com. Russel, how can our listeners find out more information that you offer and some of the resources that you provide?
Well, you're welcome to connect with me through breakthetravelbarrier.com. It has links to all my social media networks, and again, does have that free guide, how to beat the best online fare. Also has a blog area that shows you how to never pay roaming fees again, and all kinds of other great information that you can use while traveling.
Well, we do appreciate your time today, and again, we would encourage everybody, of course, to check out the website, breakthetravelbarrier.com. Lots of ideas there, and happy travels to everybody. Russel, thank you so much.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you for having me.
You bet. We will be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.